Welcome to the Spirit School of Ministry podcast, where we discuss discipleship in everyday life. Hey everyone, welcome today.
Welcome.
Welcome.
That's good. I feel
Thanks,
very
I appreciate
welcome.
it.
I hope you feel welcome today. We are going to talk about purpose.
Why?
Why? I don't know. Or porpoise. We could talk about porpoises instead and dolphins.
What's the
Yes.
purpose of this?
Yeah. The purpose is to say good stuff.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
Well, yeah. Let's talk about what purpose is, what it isn't, why it's important. Maybe it's not important, but we'll discover. We're going on a magical journey today, apparently.
Mystery tour.
Oh, boy. I feel like, yeah.
Yeah, it's one of those days, right?
Okay. Well, thank you, listeners, for being with us. I hope you're still with us.
Yeah.
Let's jump into purpose.
Yes.
Okay. What is purpose? What does it mean to have purpose? What does
Pastor
it mean to
David, he's right there with it.
What does it mean to have purpose? It means to have a reason. To have a reason for existing. Have a reason for doing something. There's a compelling motivation in your life. And there's something that is worth getting up for. There's something that, if it happened, would bring fulfillment. Okay, so those are just like some thoughts that, so we can know what we're talking about. You know, a lot of us, like myself, you know, for many years, you know, maybe you felt like you had no purpose, and you know that is a terrible place to be, because you lose that motivation, and you think, you know, what's the reason that I'm here, and does it even matter that I'm here, and you know, would it matter if someone else was here instead? You know, you start to really go in circles if you don't have a purpose in your life. So
Got it.
Pastor Bob?
My turn, huh?
Mhm.
Well, I think purpose is your why. It's the answer to your why, your personal life why, or lots of whys all around life. But I personally have never wrestled with my purpose
Ever?
ever. I
That's
know
weird.
I know who I am. It's
Is knowing who you are the same as purpose?
I think it's your purpose is based around who you are, your identity and who you are. And so I've been pretty settled in my purpose for a long time.
Like before you came to the Lord, or since you came to the Lord? Like before you came to the Lord, you knew what your purpose was, or you just didn't care?
Yes. Back then it was just drug, sex, and rock and roll. It had nothing to do
That
with
was your
anything.
why.
That was my why. It was not, there was no other reason why. But but yes, obviously since I come to the Lord, that I think there's I kind of understand the direction, the why I'm here. I may not always understand the direction or
Yeah.
how, you know, to do things, but I get that I'm supposed to.
Huh. That's interesting.
I'm pretty set in that. Now, whether or not I do it all the time, you shouldn't be asking me about if I'm leaning into my purpose.
Right.
That's a whole different thing. And I think that is maybe a problem, like with maybe lots of people. Like they know who they are, but they just don't lean into who they are. So they abandon their purpose.
Huh.
I don't know. Maybe we got too deep really quick.
No,
We went from laughing to all of a sudden we're deep. Right?
We're in the.
we didn't even do it on purpose.
Thank you, Pastor David.
You're welcome.
You're
welcome.
This really helped.
You're really settling into this dad thing. It's really good. It's really good.
Yeah.
We're gonna see if we can say purpose 3 million times during the next.
We can.
I got it. All right.
Well, since you took us deep,
Oh, I didn't.
is
mean to.
your purpose something that you can express easily? Like, could you tell us what that is, since you're so sure about it?
My purpose is to be used by God.
Okay.
The other stuff I do is how do I put it? It's kind of peripheral
Yeah.
to that.
Yeah.
Like those things happen, and it's like I like those things. They're nice. They provide. They do. You know, they do a lot of things. They satisfy. You know, personal likes and dislikes and personal relationships, all that stuff. But the actual purpose, it's toward God.
Okay.
That's what it is. It's like, that's why I've dedicated my whole adult life since I came to him.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not always liked it. Now, did I say that?
Right.
But I don't know. Did any of that make sense?
I don't know. I'm thinking
it's a little deep for you. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to bring us there. We can just sing songs and do something, easy.
Let me ask you, David, have you at any point felt like you didn't know your purpose?
Of course.
How does that, what is it like to live life without purpose?
It's not good. I just think because it's, without God, like Bob was saying, since if you're certain there's God and you have faith in him and that he's called you, there is purpose because your job is to be used by him and express his glory and everything. But if you're doubtful about God, or you're doubtful about the nature of God, if he's good, or if you're doubtful about yourself and if you can live up to whatever meanings there are, then you live a life where you're kind of just like, you are spinning your wheels, like I said before, and you're just like, is this thing worth doing? I only have a short amount of time in my life, So should I devote time to X, Y, or Z? What am I actually supposed to do? There's a lot of roads ahead of me, but what is really worth my time? And a lot of times that crippled me. Maybe it cripples you if you're listening, to just think like there's so many things I could do, but how can I be sure that it's really worth doing? And a lot of people don't try anything because they're not sure that it's a worthwhile direction. They don't have any organizing principle that can tell them, yeah, this is something that you put your hand to it and you just do it.
Right.
So a lot of times people will shrink back, or they'll be like, just live for the moment, like live for the momentary joy or numbness or whatever it might be. So
so I don't want to make it sound like I've never had any doubts or questions. I just have always known my purpose. So I mean, to know something, but to actually, like I said, lean into it and actually give yourself to it is, to me, it's two different things. You asked if have I always known my purpose since I came to the Lord? Right. Yes. I think I wouldn't have walked with him if I didn't.
Right.
That's me personally. But yeah, the trial of your faith, Lord, I believe, help my unbelief, all of those normal things, like, or really, am I going in the right direction here? Those are, I believe, separate from my purpose, or knowing my purpose. I think I've known my purpose.
What about you, Liz? What would you say your purpose would be?
I mean, I think my primary reason for existing is to know the Lord and be known. But when I really, I went through my questioning time with the Lord, and then came to the point where he had proven himself to me, and I was like, I had to make a decision. I understood that if I say yes to this thing of following Christ, that means he came to serve, and that is what I will do with the rest of my life, is to serve the way he served. And so I think there is this very simple, clear purpose in that. Now, there have been times though where it's been unclear what form that would take, and where do I fit, and how am I walking that out in this season? And then it changes, So I think there's the underwriting, clarity of my life belongs to you, like you were saying. But then there are other times for me where the I don't know how to, the expression of the purpose, I guess, came into question.
I just want to say right now, I don't know why, but I believe Holy Spirit wants to tell somebody who might be listening to this thing, if they got this far, is that and there's something that you just said that really sparked this, and that is our purpose should be very simple. I think if we render our purpose down to the simplicity of what it is in him, or whatever your purpose is, there's a clarity involved with that. And it's even if there's doubt or confusion or fear or a lot of other components, the clarity of your purpose, the simplicity of your purpose will actually act as a bedrock and a foundation to your life. So you can always return to that basic component. Right. And like I said, I know that I'm here to do God. I guess that's a good way to put it. I've known that. I haven't always liked it. I haven't always like pressed into it the way I should have. I sometimes failed miserably, if we're going to be transparent, but the purpose was always very clear. It was because I think, and like I said, I believe I'm helping somebody listening, because I rendered it down to a very simplistic component, that it's God, and he's, I'm following him. I'm doing God, and that's it. And so even when things go haywire and bad and look horrible, there's still that. And so I don't know. I think that will help somebody along the way, but there's a clarity about our purpose that I think a lot of people, that's where they get confused. And like I said, it's not that I haven't doubted or feared or any of those. Those can come, but those things aren't the bedrock.
Right.
Right. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So those are the things that keep you anchored.
Yeah. So just to make it very clear, does God have an intended purpose for every person?
Yeah, completely. I mean, biblically, it's David said, "Lord, you will fulfill your purpose for me," and he's speaking as an individual. So I don't think it was just, well, David was the anointed king, so he's the one that had a purpose. And well, no, it's like God created everything for its purpose, even the wicked for the day of trouble. That's another one. So that's bad. I think their choice is involved in that too. But everything has a purpose, and God brings a purpose out of everything. So it's not just like from the start. It's also, there's branches from everything that we do. There's ways things can go. So God's always looking for how to express his purpose in your life. And I think that's important. If somebody feels like they completely derailed and they sidetracked their life and they got away from God's purpose, well, he can work all things together for good for the one that loves God. And he can restore years that the locust has eaten. Like, he can do that. He's never powerless. So I totally believe every individual has a purpose. I believe every individual church congregation has a purpose. I believe every region has a purpose. I believe every generation has a purpose. The Bible says David fulfilled the purpose of God in his generation. So you have to find out what that is. Those might be more of the specific purposes that Pastor Bob was speaking about.
Right.
But they emerge from, like you guys are both saying, they emerge from a general, simple purpose. They're like knowing God, being conformed to Christ, being used by God. I think you guys serving, like you said, serving like Jesus served. Those are all very simple, awesome ways to begin. And then I think God can refine that purpose as you go on. You'll start to see like, oh, it's in this way,
Well, I believe also that, obviously God has purpose, like you were asking, and really his purpose is his will. And so he definitely has a will, and he definitely his will be fulfilled. It will happen. It's just a matter of the when we don't maybe click into. And when we align our will to his will, I think then we are aligning our purposes with his purposes. And then we get clarity there on our purpose. But yet, just like Jesus, like Pastor David's one of his favorite sayings, Jesus, like, not my will, but yours be done. Jesus, as a man on the earth, had a different will going on there, but he was willing to bring it in to align his purposes with God's.
Yeah, for sure.
And that's so I think, and that's a kind of a simple thing, actually, when you think about it. It's not that complicated. It's just like, okay, we're gonna do this, and so he will bring to pass his purposes in the earth. He will, those things will happen, regardless of how we feel about it. That's the funny thing about God. It's like, oh, great. We just think, in our own little godness that we carry around ourselves, that we're like, oh yeah, we think our will is like determining all the purposes of God and everything. Is like, no.
Yeah.
It's not.
Well, that kind of brings up a question is, are there other people or beings that have a purpose for us?
How would you answer that?
Let me tell you about those beings.
Of course, right? I mean, we have our own purposes for ourselves, and Satan has his own purposes for us to steal, kill, and destroy, and rule over us, and steal our worship from God, and all kinds of stuff. It says in Luke 7:30 that the Pharisees rejected God's purpose for them. So, I mean, whose purpose did they receive instead? It's
right.
someone else's.
Right. That's because I do think sometimes, like sometimes people have another purpose for your life that they're like trying to
like your daddy, your
direct
mommy.
you into.
Absolutely. I think there are a lot of intentions that go with people and, in mankind in general.
Yeah.
And how they get filtered into our life, how they manipulate our life at times, how they direct our life. But like I said, it's recognizing, getting back to that simplicity thing again, recognizing that God has a very specific purpose for our lives. And when we are locking into him and not just our own thoughts, because we all have lots of thoughts and ways. There's ways that seem right unto men, but the end thereof is the way of death, the Bible talks about. Well, that means it's not God's way. It's just not, that's not his actual plan for you. It's actually life.
Right.
Unless you're the son of perdition, then I guess you got a problem.
Well, I'm just thinking.
You even tried to stop that guy a few times, give him a few ways out.
Yeah.
Didn't take it.
He gave him a chance.
Yeah.
Purpose, I think, is one of the things that people seek for the most in life.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking as we're talking, you can find a purpose, right? There may be a lot of options of this purpose for your life, or I found this purpose, but it's not actually what your creator purposed you for, right? Because if we're talking about other wills, purpose is will, right? The devil, he has a will for your life, right? You have a will for your life, or other influences that come along. They want to exert their will over you. And I think sometimes we can latch onto a purpose that may seem fulfilling, but it's not actually what we were ordained for by our creator.
Absolutely.
Just about
I think those purposes, what they try to do is speak to us to convince us of another way.
Yeah.
That we lose sight of the actual purpose that we have.
Right.
And I think that's what those things are always speaking to. And I think purpose is very intentional. I don't think it's just scattered and haphazard. And I think when you see people who aren't grounded in their purpose in the Lord, they bounce between things constantly. Yeah, and so, they go, this is my new purpose for this year. Today it's my, it's 2024. I have a new purpose. And it's like, wow, that's great. Imagine if God did that.
Yikes.
It's like, oh geez, I decided to
new plan.
Erase you guys.
Got a new plan.
Erase the universe. Everything's good.
Yeah, it's true.
Well, David, what happens when these different purposes come into conflict?
What happens? Spiritual warfare. That's what happens. So there's it's interesting that our lives and our world are kind of a battleground for different wills. It's when somebody's sick, I believe God has a will to heal them, and the enemy has a will to kill them. If somebody's choosing a job, I believe, other people, like you said, have a purpose for them, or maybe their dad or their family business, and that could line up with God's purpose, and it could not. So it requires prayer and actually seeking God's counsel to harmonize your will with God's will. We shouldn't just assume that whatever our heart's purpose is equal to God's purpose. And we shouldn't assume it's automatically equal to Satan's purpose. We should be like, hey, what is this, Lord?
Right.
Give me insight here. Maybe I should talk to someone too. Maybe I should, share my heart with a brother or sister, with a spouse, or, somebody that could actually hear it out and say, yeah, I think that's in line with God's calling for you. But I think are you asking what happens when all the purposes, when they're not really lining up, when there's a conflict of them?
Yeah. Yeah, what happens when you're oh, I have this purpose, God has this purpose, the enemy has this purpose, now what?
Choose.
Yeah, that's where a little thing comes in called the cross, where that has to get picked up.
Yeah.
And it's not fun, because it's, maybe you have to surrender some dream you had, maybe you don't, but maybe at the end of the day, you have to say I choose the Lord. It's for him that I'm living. He laid down his life for me. I want to lay down my life for him. And that's a difficult thing to do, live a crucified life. And yeah, I think, clarity is important to really figure out what that is, what your purpose is supposed to be.
Right.
But sometimes you just have to take a step in the most faith that you have and be like, hey, I just want to glorify the Lord. I go back to my most simple purpose.
Yes.
That might be helpful, where it's like, dang, there's all these like specific purposes in front of me. Let me just go back to square one. Like, I want to honor Jesus. I want to glorify him. Okay, Lord, this is the best of my abilities. What I'm going to try to do now, I'm honoring you, rather than being crippled by needing to know for sure before I do anything. So it's kind of a hard question. I don't know if I really got anywhere on that one, but I'll punt it back to you guys.
Okay. Yeah.
See what you can do with that one, Liz.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, really, what can you do with that one?
No, I was just thinking about like the difference between eternal purposes and temporary, which is usually what I feel like is being offered to us as a substitute, right? Is like temporary things. And I was even thinking about like things that we make our identity, things that maybe we are assigned to do, called to do, because all these kind of interact, like identity, purpose, will, right? They're kind of have that root of motivation and effort and all of that. So I don't know. I'm just thinking through like, what happens when God very clearly lays out a purpose for you that seems in conflict with who you think you are, Pastor Bob?
Well, Pastor David said it pretty clearly, I think. You're going to have to go to the cross, and you probably have to crucify yourself there, because you're not going to be able to crucify him again, or you probably shouldn't.
You should not trample underfoot the Son of God again. No.
Probably read Hebrews and then figure out if you really want to do that.
Probably not.
Probably not, I'm just saying. But yeah, I think it means coming to grips with your God, that he has your life in his hands. And it's interesting, David mentioned this one thing about, well, maybe you have a dream about something, and sometimes people just go from chasing one dream to another dream and not lean into their purpose in that process. And they try to substitute their dreams for his purpose.
Aren't they the same?
How do they know? How can someone know the difference?
Know the difference between their dreams and his purpose?
Yeah.
I want to say possibly. There's so many ways people are, challenged with that, if you will. But possibly, does your dream advocate firstly for his purposes, his eternal purposes? Because I think that's another aspect of this, is that there are some eternal purposes with God. Like, he will have a people that are awaiting his coming, that are believing to rule and reign with him in the earth. People who will be so connected to the heart of the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit that they will walk with them without any reservation. They'll give up their life for him. So there's some eternal purposes that God presents to us. When I say his people, he presents the possibility to anybody who will receive him. But then when he births that in you, to focus on what God is actually, where his plan and his purpose ends up, not where just yours does. Because if your purpose, or what your dream or whatever that you're latching onto at that moment, if it has a very temporal, short-sighted, and doesn't feed into the eternal purposes of God, then I have to wonder if you're just spinning your wheels and wasting your time. To be honest with you, because that's hard to do, because some of those things look good.
There's a lot of purposes that look really good. Like, I'm going to save the snow owls. That's a great thing to do. I'm going to make sure every public school has plenty of oranges and apples for them to eat. And all that stuff is great. It could be part of God's ultimate purpose. That could be what he's called you to do. So I think you have to be real honest with yourself. Like, is this selfish ambition, or is this something that God is calling me to do? Because it's really easy to rationalize that, it's really,
and I also
there's so many competing purposes, like Liz was saying.
The Lord also will confirm, whether or not you're on track with his purposes. If you're willing to be part of something, like something more than you, okay, where other people can, who are respected, who know the word, who are seeking God, who are not going to just tell you stuff just to get you to do their purposes, but, another distraction, who are actually there for you. Like they care about your life. They care about your purpose in God. And those are the kind of people I would want influencing me, speaking into my life, confirming things that I think are my, like you said, dreams or purposes. Like, hey, yeah, that's a good dream because it does lead into God's eternal purpose.
Right.
And we see as best we can, we see that that's where that's leading. And they'll walk with you, and you have an ear open to let them correct you or just take it back later and go, hey, you know what? We've walked this down that what we thought was that road of purpose. It's just not. Mm-hmm. So you just have to stop now. And so this is where our purposes, or what we believe our purposes are,
right.
Run into the brick wall of our pride. Yeah. Oh, you went. I'm sorry, Pastor Liz. I'm sorry.
That's not our subject today.
Let's throw that one out there. I don't want to even deal with that. But it's true.
Yeah.
We don't. A lot of times we don't want to be corrected, directed, focused in an area because of our pride. And so then you could lose sight and not understand your purpose. You could
worship an old way when God's saying there's a new purpose. You could worship the bronze snake.
Right.
The thing of the past, that used to really help us. And
or you could worship a new thing that God doesn't want you to worship, and he in just the opposite of that, right? He might be saying, hey, ask for the old paths. Where are those ways?
That,
right? I mean, press into that place.
Yeah.
And we're like, but I have a new thing. I have a new main squeeze.
Oh.
That I just love this purpose. I'm sorry. I had to make you laugh because the pride thing kills you. I get
know,
that. So it's I don't want you to be crying over there.
Oh, thank you. I was about to.
I know.
Okay. David, did I ask you what your purpose is?
Yes, you did. Let's move on.
It's changed since the first time you asked.
I know. I've had about an hour to consider it now. So, I think my purpose is just in general to be like Jesus. I really want that. Really just want to be like him in every way. So that would be like the simplest way to do it. And
right.
I think like how I express that is like where I feel like I'm the most useful is trying to just like literally change people's minds about God, like to let them see who he really is through Christ. And I like people's whole life can be changed by that, and that's what I love to do,
right.
to see somebody get an epiphany of, wow, I didn't realize that's what grace was. I didn't realize that's who he really is.
Yeah.
So that's what I love, that's what gets me up in the morning,
Yeah. Well, I think it's important, like each one of us had a pretty simple description maybe of what our purpose is, that really is applicable at any phase of our life.
Yeah.
Right. It doesn't depend on what age I am, what my ministry position is, what my title is, none of those things. And I think it's really important. I think a lot of times maybe people confuse like, different assignments or positions or things like that with purpose. And then when it changes, now all of a sudden they're like, I don't know who I am anymore.
It's true.
But the purpose that at least the three of us have talked about, if we're a good sample group, is a little odd, but
still out on that.
But I see this in the lives of people who have longevity in the Lord, is that when everything can change in their life, but they still have that like anchor of, I know what my life is about. Like, I know my purpose. It all comes back to this one primary thing that is unchanging no matter what changes around me. I just think this is really important for people to understand that purpose doesn't, what I want to say, like your deepest purpose, your truest purpose, is something that will be unchanging, because it actually is about the unchanging one.
Yes.
Right. It's and so like purpose is not what ministry you're supposed to do, or what like assignment what group you're supposed to oversee, or what nation you're supposed to go to, or any of those. It's not actually your purpose. Those can be ways that your purpose is expressed or walked out, but those may change really unexpectedly. And then what? Like, is your purpose is your life purpose rocked by those things, because you've put so much weight in something that is the outer branch and not the the trunk. You know what I'm saying?
I think that's why when we talk about this, we kind of several times come up right up to it, and that is your identity and your purpose. It's pretty difficult to separate the two, because your identity is not defined by the work you do, although some people take that option.
Yes. Yeah.
Your identity is not defined by the title you hold or titles you hold. Your including not just titles like given by business or government or churches, but hey, you're a dad, you're or a mom, or you're a son, or it's your identity is not that actually.
Global apostolic pastor.
Yeah.
The gap. I'm a gap.
I'm a gap.
Reverend Father Cardinal.
Can you put divine, holy, high, and lifted up in there somehow, and I'll accept that.
Yes.
But really, I mean, your identity is when we talk about purpose, that's what your purpose is speaking to. It's to who you are in Him, which doesn't change. It doesn't change. You might not live up to that, or might not operate in that lane.
Yeah.
But that's who you are.
Well, I mean, you boil it down. What's, the purpose of humanity is to bear the image of God.
Yes.
To bear His image. And I think we feel like we're missing our purpose because we're missing our purpose.
Exactly.
And that's what's called sin.
That's good.
Because you've twisted the image of God, or the image has been tarnished in some way. What if there was someone that could come restore the image of God? Be Jesus, So Jesus has helped us to have a purpose, right? And so, I mean, that's a real basic way of saying it too, that it's like, hey, God's given me this purpose. He made me in His image. I didn't earn that at all. I didn't earn the restoration to His image through Christ, but it gives me something like I love what you said, like your purpose has to flow from your identity. What a thing is dictates what it should do, what its use is, you know? Right. So I think that was a great insight you had.
What if the purposes that we see in front of us are not appealing to us?
Just quit. Just kidding, but no.
Fail miserably.
Sorry, I haven't had enough coffee today.
You don't want to drink her coffee.
Cream and sugar.
No. Milk and sugar.
Has anyone ever seen
just
Liz
milk and
when
sugar?
Have you ever seen Liz when she's had too much coffee and too much orange juice at the same time?
That's a good combination.
It's not good for your teeth, though. No. That much orange juice and coffee.
And when you mix them together, it's really bad.
And also, don't brush your teeth right after that, too. That's terrible. It tastes horrible.
Wow, you were just avoiding my question.
What was the question again?
Yeah, say it one more time. Sorry.
I'm trying to remember what it
we
was.
went too far down the coffee road.
Something like, what if the purposes in front of you that God's putting in front of you are unappealing to you?
Yeah.
I think you probably want to find another religion. Buddha's cool. He'll make
all an illusion.
You can laugh with it.
It's all an illusion in Buddhism.
Illusion.
Yeah. So
it's all an evolution.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, I think, like you already mentioned, Jesus, like his purpose God set in front of him wasn't always his favorite thing.
No.
But he also, willingly did it, and he had joy set before him, and he could see, he trusted his Father in it, right? He said, like, the Father wouldn't ask me to do this if it wasn't for the ultimate good, right? And so, like, because he loved the Father and he knew, he's the Father of lights, there's no shifting shadow in him, there's no betrayal in him. If he would ask me to do this, it has a purpose. I might not see it. And I think like for me, like sometimes I take too short of a view of God's purpose. Like, hey, God's purposes aren't getting accomplished. I'm not seeing any impact. I'm not seeing any breakthrough, like whatever Christian term you're going to put on it.
Right.
But he's just reminding us that his kingdom grows like a seed, like leaven. It grows slow. It has hidden growth. It's not always just this boom, wow, look at that. What an amazing purpose. I wish I had Bob's purpose. Then I could really have impact. And it's like it's really watering down your purpose that God's made for you, which is to be his image in a certain way. And so yeah, there's gonna be a lot of times that you don't like what it is. Maybe you're assigned something that you just go, I'm not gifted for that, or I don't want to do that, or whatever, or or you're not naturally good at it. But that's where the cross comes in, and you're like, okay, Lord, I can't do this in my own power. I'm going to try to surrender to you and do this. I'm going to take the one step after another, and hopefully it works out for you. It's not easy. These are hard situations. So.
Oh yeah,
right.
They'll test your faith.
These are the realities. It's like it's great to talk about God's purpose for my life, and then you run into the wall of pain or
mundanity,
discomfort, or
yeah.
Everyday life.
I would just say what I would tell somebody what I normally tell myself is like, just get over it, suck it up, and just keep going, because I mean those things are there to distract and to derail us, right? And it's if you want easy, like I said, you chose the wrong religion.
Yeah.
It's simple. It's just
choose one that doesn't tell you to be crucified.
Right. Yeah.
He's the death pastor today.
He's the death. No, I was about to be. You're dead, and your life is hid with Christ. He's like, you choose a religion where you're not dead.
Right.
You're also alive.
You died. You're dead, and you're dying. That's our religion.
And you're alive, and you're living, and you're going to be resurrected.
Right. All of that at the same time. We lost Liz just
the tenses of salvation.
But yeah, I think if it's not easy,
right?
I don't know how to say it, but it's not easy, and so you can't be a weenie and serve God.
Well, it's like one of those questions of like, what kind of a worthwhile purpose is easy? Yeah. Or it's like, hey, your purpose is to sit on the couch, play video games, and eat Doritos.
Or Bob.
Cool,
Eat Bob.
But you're going to get sick of that after like 5 years, 15 years, 50 years for some people.
Maybe 100.
500 years maybe for some people. But eventually you'll be like, this doesn't mean much. Like, I just want to do something.
Well, certainly in an eternity, you'll look back and be like, what? What was that about?
God's like, he's still on the couch?
He switched from nacho cheese to Cool Ranch.
He weighs 40,000 pounds and he's still on the couch.
Oh my
God. Sloth.
Wow. Yeah. Well, yeah. Okay. Like I said, you just Christianity is risk taking. It's weird. It takes some. I mean,
It's weird. It's painful. It's dying.
You have to love yourself and hate your life.
Yeah.
It's like, whoa, okay. You have to let go of your life and to gain it. And then you should gain it too. And so it's got all these it's got all this stuff going that's
making this very clear.
It's very clear. In other words, suck it up. Get with somebody. It's going to actually tell you. You're going to have
to say it bluntly, please.
Okay, I'll say it bluntly. It's like you need to get with somebody who's going to tell you the truth. If it's just going to be, it's going to be so good, and there'll be no problems.
Make sure you bring in the full tithe.
Yes, and your purpose will lead you out of the darkness and always guide you through the darkness of night. Yeah, it will. And you'll probably also get hurt in the process. You'll have some pain. All right, this is the thing. He was the death pastor. I'm the pain pastor today.
Yeah, you had the idea for this podcast. Now we know what you really wanted to say.
Exactly.
I just wanted you to get some of this off my chest.
Suck it up.
Suck it up. We need some Marine Christians. Yeah. Well, honestly, I mean, that's what that's come down to. You know, like you said, you've repeated a few times where, you know, for the, you know, the joy that was set before him, he endured the, you know, little marshmallows. No, he endured the cross. And so endurance takes something, right?
You're actually enduring something.
Oh.
Yes. Mm-hmm. But it's not bad. It's not evil. That's the deal. Like, people look at things like that and make it look like it's evil. So those things are designed to bring us into a reality of our purpose and make us hold on to our purpose in God, and, you know, test us to see if we're willing and worthy to actually lean in and be that person regardless. Mm-hmm. And like I said, that's and once you get that, once you render it down to that simplicity, you'll be like, okay, yeah, this hurts like heck, but I was nice. This hurts like heck, but I'm still walking with him.
Right.
I'm still going to just keep going with him.
Right. I think that sometimes in those situations you're like, okay, this is the road that's ahead of me, and I really don't want to walk down it. If we're honest, there is the decision, I guess, of I can choose to take another road, but I won't be walking with him anymore. You know, like that sometimes is the only determining factor of, like, I see what's ahead of me and I see it's going to cost me, and I see that there's some breaking that's going to happen, and I understand that there's a process that I'm committing to, but what's the alternative? Yeah. Walk away? Like, go down some other road without him?
Yeah.
You know, like that. I think it's really as simple as that when we're looking at, like, maybe something that's not appealing to us, maybe something we don't, like you said, we're like, I'm not gifted for that. That's not my personality. I'm not inclined that way. I think I'm just going to fail at that. It's like, really what it comes down to is I'm either going to walk into something that's hard with you, or I'm going to walk on a different road without you.
Mm-hmm. I would say walk away is what you're doing. And
yeah.
You know what? The 3 people that I didn't chase away with my little thing, you got rid of those 3 people. There's nobody listening right now. I mean, David and I want to go away now. It's just,
where shall we go?
But it's true. There's a wonderful seriousness about walking with God, and it's a good thing too. It's a good thing. It's not like that, because the joy that was set before him is set before us also. Right. Let's not forget that, and that we have a eternal life with him that goes so past what we see as our little, temporal purposes today, tomorrow. And those things all come and go. You know that billions of people have been on this planet, and they all had those little itty bitty purposes in front of them that mean nothing right now. Nobody knows them, remembers them, thinks about them a second time, most of those people.
Right.
But God, with him, the ones that did follow him and his purposes, they are with him. Mm-hmm. They're with him now. Yeah. And so that's the difference. That's the eternal difference that we're talking about, because that's what walking with God offers. It's not just a temporal thing. Yes, there are great temporal things that will come your way and blessings, and it's great. It's great. We have great times of joy in the Lord and happiness and friendships and relationships. It's great. But then there's God. Yeah.
I think too that, in those places of like, okay, God, you said this. I don't see myself that way. I don't think I'm capable of it. The decision to trust him above yourself, it does bring, like, he creates in you, he reveals, let's say, in you who you really are. And you come into a place of satisfaction and fulfillment that you would never have ordained for yourself. Let's say you would never have stepped into on your own, because you didn't think it was possible for you to do that. I think there is a revelation of who your identity, your true identity, that God gives to us, and then we have a choice to either agree with him or stay in our own little place of belief, I guess. Yeah. You ever experienced that, Pastor David?
Being called out of my own personal comfort zone? Yes, I have.
I mean, other than 4 times today.
Yeah, pretty much everything God's ever asked me to do has seemed 1,000 times harder than I could accomplish in my own strength. Just because I think like every time God calls you to a specific purpose, He's calling you into weakness. And He's calling you into like, hey, you're coming somewhere that you don't have the resources for it, because it's not for your kingdom. Like our purposes are always beyond us. That's what makes the purpose worth something.
That's good.
It's not just about, my purpose is to have such a good Christian family with a white picket fence and a golden retriever, and we'll have a couple guns to shoot anybody that comes and take it from us. Like, is that like really our purpose? Sorry, whatever. I'm not.
Let me think about
I'm not against the second. Not against the Second Amendment. Whatever. But like, it's really like it's so much farther beyond us. Like we're serving a king that's higher than us. We're serving a future beyond this life. We're living for others outside of ourselves, so that what we freely receive, we can freely give to them. We're going to destroy the works of the devil. We're on the offense of a spiritual war. It's so much farther beyond us, and what we're going to get out of it. That of course it's going to draw from you. Like you're being called to like a great adventure into suffering. I think Jordan Peter said something like, you're going to suffer either way, so you should suffer the meaningful way, and so it's you should pick up the meaningful path. I think that was really good. So it's like, every time when I've been called to like I remember like when I just started serving at a church, I was way more introverted than I am now, which is a lot. And I barely even would like talk to anybody, and I would just show up at church and sit down, and I was supposed to be like in ministry, and the pastors were like, like you should go greet people. Like you should go shake hands with people, say hi to them. And I was like, I don't know these people, and I was like, I literally had to like learn how to do it.
Yeah.
And so like, I hope you see me now at church. I go around, I talk to people, I hug them. That's from God. That's not something that I wanted to do. I'm glad I did it.
Right.
It built something in me that made me a better person, more like Jesus. But if I would have just said, I don't agree with that, that's not what I do, I would have missed out. And that might be a small example, but He's always pulling us beyond ourselves. He's our Father. He's like, hey, there's more in you. I put more in you. Let's bring it out. Come on. Oh, it's not in you? I'll put it in you. Okay. So that's just a few thoughts.
Well, the thought came to my mind is that there's a trusting in His purposes that's involved there, and that you can trust in your own purposes, your own ways, your own thoughts and intents, or trust in His purposes. And I think trust in His purposes is what gives you the horsepower behind getting through stuff and getting into doing what He wants. It's just trusting Him and His purpose, because our purposes a lot of times, like I said, especially if they're not aligned with His, they're going to fail us in the process. And so we put our trust in the wrong place.
Yeah.
We banked it in the wrong place. But if our trust is in Him and what He's doing in life, which goes way beyond just me or us, and what He's just doing in the earth. Like I said, I liked what you said earlier about He's bringing us into His likeness and image. And so we're made after His likeness and image, and now He's bringing us into full sonship, full, locked together with Him in Christ. It's a great place, but we have to trust that He's doing that. That's our faith. That's where our faith is. And even like I said that earlier, I said when I don't believe, God believe He believes. When I help my unbelief, God, I believe You, but help my unbelief. We are actually saying, I trust Your purpose beyond my own purposes, beyond what I think is right, especially at any given time. Because look, we're people, we get to choose things all the time. Every moment of every day, you're choosing something. The question is it aligned with His purpose?
Yeah, for sure.
That's good.
I don't know. I hope that was okay.
It's very good.
I hope He purposed for us
to
say this.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, as we're wrapping up here, I want to encourage you, if you're listening, to really think about how, if someone were to ask you, what is your purpose, how would you articulate that? And Is it something that can actually sustain you for the rest of your life walking with the Lord? Or have you substituted something that's maybe more temporary in place of a simple eternal purpose that can keep your life? So I want to challenge you on that someone asked you could say, this is what my purpose is. And I want to give you another challenge is go ask other people, especially other believers, like, what's your purpose? Maybe it's a good question to ask unbelievers too, like kind of open the door, right? Like,
I'll do that a lot of times. I'll be like, hey, what are you living for? Like, what's your big thing for you? What's your dream? What's your purpose?
Yeah.
People be like, oh, yeah, it really opens, some people
yeah.
opens them up.
No, it's great to be able to talk to other people about what they're living for. It encourages us. It's a great place to bring exhortation and encouragement and get a different perspective of who God is in their life. So it's a good subject to talk about. Think about it. Know your purpose and be able to express it, to give an answer of the hope that's in you to whoever might ask. Thank you for joining us. Be sure to subscribe to get the latest episode. And for more information, visit spiritschoolofministry.com.